Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And it is a Monday in 2023, the first one. And we have roughly a 9-game slate to choose from. There is 10 games, but we've got that weird, actually 12 p.m. on the Pacific Coast start time for that Knicks and Sixers game. So we'll just move on to the other 9 here. We've got a couple game videos up for you and our player props, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page as always. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where you can go ahead and get all of our great written content all season long and use the odds finder tool that we have on there to make sure you're getting the best juice across those U.S. sports books on all these NBA bets you make this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this slate and then talk about our game in this video. The Hawks are in Golden State taking on the Dubs.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy that matinee with the Emmanuel Quickly show before we get into these night games. Yeah, Bulls plus 3.5 at the Cavs. Those teams just played a nail biter in Chicago. Totals at 221. Raptors are plus 3.5 at the Pacers. The other game we break down is a pick'em Lakers at Hornets. Totals only 232. I feel like I'm being trapped to bet that either way, but here we are. Pelicans in a rematch with the Sixers. This time it's in Philly. Pelicans are plus 6 as we record this. That's a lot of points for somebody that just won, granted in New Orleans. The Spurs are plus 14 at the Red Hot Nets. Mavs minus 7 at Rockets. Nuggets are going to be in a back-to-back in Minnesota. We don't have that line yet here as we record this on Sunday night. And the Pistons plus 10 at Blazers, the Heat plus 5 at Clippers, and then this game, right now Hawks are plus 3 at the Warriors. I've seen it as high as plus 5, but opened at just plus 2. And I don't know who is betting on the Hawks on the road right now. Or who is betting against the Warriors at home. Like we were trying to attack this since we saw what they looked like when they finally got back home without Steph. We were talking about it a little bit, without Steph, everybody else has got to step up. This is actually could be a good shot in the arm for them. And it has been. The only thing that's fluctuated is whether they're going to go over or not, because they're sometimes their offense has hit a snag without Steph for sure. But the defense has been incredible. Draymond Green has been vintage Draymond, the 96 defensive rating in these last 4 wins. The last 2 in the fourth quarter. Outscored Utah 24-13, then outscored Portland 30-16. Atlanta's struggling down the stretch defensively, allowing 30 points per game in the fourth in their last 3. Look, Atlanta's been really bad on the road all season. Really for a few years they've struggled with the splits, but right now, they're scoring the 6th fewest in the fourth on the road, 8th worst transition D, 10th worst three-point defense, 5th worst rebounding rate and defensive rating. And they've lost 5 of their last 6. If you look at, very much the lately sample size on the road. They've allowed 122 a game. They're shooting just 34% from 3 and averaging under 40 rebounds per game, by far the worst. Clint Capella is going to be out for this one. DeAndre Hunter may or may not play. Warriors are going to be missing some big bodies as well. Andrew Wiggins still out. Kuminga and JaMychal Green expected to sit, but there's such a huge edge here for the Warriors at home and such a huge edge for a veteran team when they get some rest. That's really what I look at even more than the fact that they're 13-4 against the spread at home. Last year, they went 18-9 against the spread when they got at least 2 days off. This year, they've won and covered in 4 straight with those two plus days off against, hard-hitting teams, Cleveland, Chicago, Boston, Memphis, all those games that they got up for. At least the last 2, especially Boston and then Memphis on Christmas. Will they get up for a game against the Hawks and Trae Young? Probably. Trae gave them the business last time. The home team has won the last 3 in this series. Trae had a very nice game at home in March last year to lead Atlanta to the win. But look, Claypool, as you can call them now, are 61 points and 13 threes in that game. It was losing effort, but those guys coming off a huge game against Portland, it shows that the Warriors are just starting to figure out how to play without Steph a little bit and how to still keep their beautiful offense going.
Yeah, they're playing without Steph much better on offense for sure. That they also are just playing really good defense now, and that's really what it comes down to. You talk about the last 4 at home. playing three of those teams were really good offenses. Portland, Utah, Memphis, all in the top 12. Memphis is, I believe, is 12th, and then Utah's like 4th in terms of offensive efficiency, and the Blazers are in 9th. And then you know that one against Charlotte, they also played really good D. Almost gave that game up at the end, but still held on to only give up 105 points to Charlotte, who surprisingly is the worst offense in the league, offensive rating wise, you know, in terms of efficiency there. Not something you'd expect from that team. It's not like they're good on defense. They're obviously one of the worst teams in the league for a reason, but at any rate, the other three were very impressive in their wins against Portland, finally locking up once the second half came around, and really needing that, and not playing so much in the first half, but waking up. And the reason that, you know, they've been so good on defense in those last four is just turning around the really the stats that beat them up, and it's always turnovers, opponents' points off turnovers. They limited that to being 7th best. Previously, they were the 2nd worst team in the league at that. They're usually in the bottom 5 to 10. Honestly, on a Steph and Clay and Draymond style team, they're always going to be, you know, up there in terms of turnovers. But you can limit that and limit fast break points and those opponents' points off of those turnovers, which they've also been 7th in limiting fast break points. They've also been 5th in limiting points in the paint, which has been really huge for them. And without Clint Capella in this one, you've got to feel good about their ability to limit their points. That, you know, Atlanta's getting into the paint as much as well. Dre is really the dude who stepped up as much as anyone with his 96 individual defensive rating over the last 4 total. You talked about how incredible it's been in the last 2 as well, even better than that 96. But so talking about all the unders, you go, well, what this total is at 233.5, and I'm a little bit loath to take it. I actually could talk about the lineups here specifically because Kuminga is out. That does affect the defense a bit. Especially for the second unit, Kuminga was getting about 22 minutes a game over the course of the last 4, and has had one of the better individual defensive ratings as well. In fact, the best defensive rating lineup that they can put out there involves Kuminga and DiVincenzo out there with Clay, Poole, and Draymond, right? And so DiVincenzo as well, another incredible individual defensive rating. So, you know, he will be in there, but I would prefer to have Kuminga in there to go ahead and feel better about an under, the way that he does. That's the dude that, you know, he doesn't need to figure out how to bring it together on defense. That's where he's just absolutely incredible, uses his athleticism and size and strength. But I don't really want to touch the total only because I am a little bit scared, but I would lean under. I really would. The way that I know that the Hawks go over in this situation, but I do think you can continue to expect that defensive prowess that the Dubs have been showing. I think they've had to turn that on, knowing that they're not going to have Steph, knowing that they're going to have to rely on Clay and as you said, Claypool for roughly, you know, 55 to 60 points a game to continue to be competitive because of the lack of offense around them and really a lack of shooting outside of those guys as well. Anthony Lamb will be getting a few more minutes, and that dude has been lights out at times this season from deep, which has been a huge surprise after he was coming off of a 10-day contract originally. But I don't know how much you want to rely on that as well for points. So I think the way that the Dubs are playing right now without Steph is that style of play where they, even though they are still playing at roughly like 103 pace at home, which is really, really fast, they're not as efficient on offense. There's nobody scoring more than 11 points a game outside of Poole and Clay. So as bad as Atlanta has been on defense, you know, that would be the other reason, I should say, for why I wouldn't feel great about taking it under at 233.5. If ever there was a team that was coming in on the road that you felt good about being able to take advantage of their 5th worst defensive rating on the road all season long. You mentioned 8th worst transition defense, allowing the 3rd most fast break points, which the Dubs will eat up if you allow them to and continue to pull transition threes as we've seen. So once again, I'm continuing to talk myself out of taking it under, even though I said I lean that way, because I just feel a lot better about what the Dubs are able to do at home versus an Atlanta team that also their half court offense has not been figured out as well. Continues to be a huge problem where if Trey's not hitting 4 or 5 threes, you feel like it's a pretty stagnant offense.
Yeah, I feel a little better about the under than you do, I think. But I am also, concerned if those big bodies, Kuminga and JaMychal Green, are not playing. But, I mean, Draymond is that connective general that we've seen from the Warriors in the past. And we talked at the beginning of this homestand, such a long homestand for them, a great opportunity to get right. And all the stuff he was talking about, it's like, you know, we're trying to win championships. Well, but it's time to turn the corner now. Here, starting with Christmas, and they've certainly put the clamps down. And the fourth quarter numbers are, to me, the most telling thing, that maybe you want to live bet an under. Maybe if this looks like an up and down game because there's so many guards out there, you say, but I think the Warriors are going to clamp down. And we've seen the Hawks offense, like you said, just go in the can in the fourth quarter against several good opponents. It's just the fact that they're coming off a game against the Lakers who scored 1 million points. Of course, it seems like they're gonna go over 240 again. But no, I feel pretty good about that. I feel good about the Hawks going under their team total. Just because I think it's a pretty easy offense to game plan for, which is surprising when you look at how good DeJounte and Trey were separately the last couple of years, but they just haven't found a way to really do anything more than your turn, my turn, right? And the pick and roll game, the spacing is a little awkward, and they're still terrible from the 3-point line, at least on the road. I mean, we threw out all these road stats. They haven't really played on the road just once since they kind of got over that Trey mess in mid-December. But it was a loss. It was a 15-point loss to the Pacers. Warriors are a more capable kind of version of that depth and youth and athleticism than the Pacers. So I like Warriors first to win and cover, and then I would look at the under.
Yeah, I'm with it, and I'm not gonna, feel too bad about leaving that total alone and just hitting the dubs in this situation. And like you said, the live total, I would also feel good about, only because I want to see how things start out. I might not even get the opportunity to do that if this game starts and ends somewhat slower than we might expect, especially with the way that the Atlanta offense might look against a much better Warriors defense as of late. So that's all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Check out the other couple videos we have for you today. And until we see you next, happy betting.